I went record shopping in Boscombe. Ahoy everybody, and welcome to another haul video. I'm recording this on February 21st of August. Yesterday I went to a gig at the O2 Academy Bournemouth, which is actually in Boscombe, which is a suburb of Bournemouth. So yeah, still technically Bournemouth. Gig was excellent. It was two of my favourite bands, Sleeper and the Blue Tones, co-headlining, taking it in turns who would play when on each gig. We had the Blue Tones doing their 90-minute set first, followed by Sleeper with their 90-minute set. As I say, absolutely fantastic. The conceit was, well, originally it was celebrating the 25th anniversary of Sleeper's Smart debut album, and by playing that in full plus a hit set, and the Blue Tones would be playing their debut album, Expecting to Fly, plus a hit set. Because of delays, because of COVID, Smart is now 26 years old, but Expecting to Fly is now 25 years old, so it was celebrating that instead. So yeah, excellent gig, really enjoyed it. Very tired though, being a 3 hours gig plus the half-hour break for changing this equipment. It didn't finish till 11, then an hour and a half-ish drive home. Yeah, so tired. But anyway, booked a day off work because I was meant to be working that evening. So I thought, right, I'll go early. I'll go into Bournemouth, go to the record shop there, which I've been to a few times previously. And then from there, I'll go into Boscombe, and I was aware of there should be 2 record shops in Boscombe. One of which I knew existed because I'd seen it last time we were there, but it was evening when we went, so it was shut. But yeah, have a look in those, then have something to eat and go to the gig. So, left home just after noon, got to Bournemouth 1:15, something like that. I didn't actually check the time, but parked up. There's a little car park sort of on the outskirts of the town centre that's cheaper than the ones down by the seafront, but it's a bit further away, so you have to be prepared to walk from it. But I parked up there. I thought, right, I'll take 2 hours parking because, you know, I can quite easily spend an hour in my record shop. So £2.50 bought me 2 hours parking, 10-minute walk downhill, largely, to the vault. And when I got there, it was closed. By the looks of it, it had been closed a while because there was all sorts of mail on the mat. But the stock was still there, or a lot of the stock was still there anyway. So, swore quietly to myself, turned round and headed back uphill. So it was a 15-minute walk back to the car. So I was knackered by the time I got back to the car. I have subsequently investigated, and apparently they're leaving because the rent's too high, but why some of their stock's still there, because this article was from February. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but yeah, apparently the landlord won't cut their rent and they can't afford to pay it. Which is a shame. They have a store in Christchurch, which I've never been to, but they do want another store in Bournemouth, so hopefully that happens, because it was a good little store. But yeah, got back to the car, so headed to Boscombe, which is 10-minute, 15-minute drive, if that. Got into Boscombe itself, went round, and I passed the record shop that I knew existed, and I could see it was open, so that was a relief, because I had visions of having to kill 4 hours in Boscombe with no open record shops. Drove around Boscombe a bit to try and find a free car parking space, because we've had luck before, but no such luck, so I went in a multi-storey there, which was only £4 for anything between 4 and 24 hours, so I thought that was a decent price anyway. So parked up and went to the first record shop, and it's called Snu-Peas, SNU-Peas, as in what you eat, P-E-A-S. Why, I don't know. But I'd remembered from last time we were there, the window was just full of records, tapes and CDs, well weathered. But, you know, it's proper old Cramham High shop. Went in, and it is definitely a proper old Cramham High shop. So as you go in, you sort of go in, the doors on the left-hand side of the shop premises, and you go in, and sort of to the right of you, sort of back onto the window, there's loads of CDs, and then they carried it along the opposite wall. In the middle, there's a huge section with most of the albums in, but then to the left there was a load of 7-inch singles, and then there was a pillar, and then the other side of that pillar was loads of jazz, comedy, soundtracks, and a few other specialist sections. I can't remember which they were now. Every available bit of wall space had bits of vinyl on display, mostly 7 inches. There was a rack of cassettes all along one wall, and then on the counter to the ceiling, stacked high with CDs, and that went round along the wall. There must have been about at least 1,000 CDs there. There were just stacks of records everywhere, but by the looks of it were the shit, you know, the Top of the Pops albums and stuff like that. But they were just stacked all over the place. It was really cluttered. His sort of system was interesting. So he, you know, it was, apart from the specialist sections, it was A to Z, with separately marked sections for particular artists. It's quite interesting, the sort of artists who had special sections, because, you know, there's the obvious ones with Beatles and Pink Floyd and things like Led Zeppelin and what have you. But then Frank Sinatra had a whole section. Shaky had a whole section, which for me was wonderful. I didn't buy anything. There was one there I didn't have, but it was an old Sunsets, Shakin' Stevens and Sunsets live album, and it was quite a bit of money, and I decided not to get it. You know, there's other people who you wouldn't really expect to have their own section. But then the way he'd done it was anything under £10, I think it was just a sticker on the sleeve, no protection or anything, and the records in there and what have you. But then anything more than £10 was in a plastic sleeve, and the record wasn't in there. And when you bought it, you took it up to him, and he had all the records behind in shelving units, you know, vaguely similar to the IKEA units, but bigger, but, you know, that sort of form. And he was up on his steps, climbing up to reach the records down, which seemed an interesting way to do it. I've never seen it done like that before. Whether he has a large problem with theft, I don't know. I can't imagine so. Yeah, but you run your shop how you want to run it. What I did find was it was at times quite difficult to browse. The section with the soundtracks and everything, I had to give up on the comedy because it was right at the back, and I was reaching over. It was a deep unit anyway, and fairly high, and I'm 5'8". I'm not short, but I'm not the tallest person. But I was also reaching over these stacks of crap records in front as well, so I couldn't really reach to the back. So as I say, I had to give up on browsing the comedy stuff. I did manage to go through the soundtracks because there was a bit of a gap. But also in the general sections, he just had loads of versions of the same record in there, rather than, you know, keeping them behind and then when he sold one, replacing it. And it was the common everyday albums as well, you know. It was 5 copies of, I'm now struggling to think of a single example, Simply Red picture book or whatever it's called, and, you know, things like that, just normal 80s pop albums that are easy to come by, which is why he had so many copies of them. As I say, you know, it made the racks tight to navigate when he could have just taken 4 of those out and it would have been a lot easier. But again, you run your shop how you want to run your shop. But I had a good flick through, went through, and I picked up 8 titles, I think, from there. A couple of particular interest in that they're unusual. The rest were mainly collection fillers, if you like. So we'll start from here. So this was one that was... I've got to try and remember the prices now because he kept the sleeve, so he knew what he'd sold. It all came to £68. 5, 10, 15, 20. So the first 4 came to £48 between them. I know one was 18. I think it was an 18, a 12, a 10 and an 8, but I can't entirely remember which was which. I think this was 10, I think. But this is Slayed Alive 2, or Slayed Alive Volume 2, to be correct. So the follow-up to their first live album, Slayed Alive. This is from 1976, 8 even. It was recorded in 76 and 77, that's right, I had 76 in my mind. I haven't listened to any of these yet. It will be a while before I do. But, I mean, the first Slayed Alive is a classic album, and it's a great live album, but it does suffer a bit from not really having any of their hits on them. This has got Goodbye to Jane, Take Me Back Home, Mama We're All Crazy Now, Every Day, Come On Feel the Noise. So, this is sort of what I want from a live Slade album. So, yeah, he'd climb up and pull the record down, and it'd be in a cardboard outer sleeve, or most of them were anyway, and then the record itself was inside. To be fair, he did double check all these records before he gave them to me, to check they were as described on the labels, which is very good of him. Some Barn records. It's not perfect. There's a few scuffs on it, but nothing that should affect play in any way. It's a little bit dusty as well, but that's not the end of the world. Polylined inner. So yeah, sleeve's not in terrific nick, but it's a filler in the collection. This one he got me to check as well. So this is Cat Stevens' Matthew and Son. So this is one of his 2 early albums before he sort of reinvented himself with Teeth of a Tillerman. I hope I've got the chronology right there. But before he, reinvented himself as a singer-songwriter-y type bloke, this is when he was more pop. It's an original mono 1967 pressing. Sleeves is sort of weathered, but it's fine. But it was only, I think this might have been the £12 one. I might be misremembering, but you would normally pay quite a bit more than that. But it's because the vinyl's not in great condition. There's lots of marks on it. There's a couple of scratches that may or may not affect play. There's some dirt marks that hopefully should clean off. But this is the first time I've seen it. It's not an easy one to find. They have reissued it, but for an original mono, I can't remember if I said that. So I was happy to pay that price for this in the condition it's in. It would have been a real bargain if it was a mint copy. This, I'm pretty certain, yes it was. This is the £8 one. This is even had, although it was sleeved separately, this has got the £8 sticker on the record, which hopefully I'll be able to get off. So this is Well Respected Kinks. So this is a compilation. It's the first budget compilation on the Marble Arch label. But it's quite nice because it's got B-sides on it as well as A-sides. And I believe it's got the entire contents of an EP they released. So it's a nice little release. So yeah, it's on the Marble Arch label, and again, it's not perfect. It has a few marks, a few light scratches, but again, hopefully shouldn't affect play. And then that would make this the £18 one, but it might not have been. As I say, I can't remember. It might be that Matthew and Son was 18, which would still be cheap. But whatever the price was, this was somewhere between £10 and £20. Joni Mitchell's Ladies of the Canyon. So I have this on CD, but as you may or may not know, I am gradually getting everything on vinyl for Joni. Not too bad a cover, considering it's a white cover. There's a few spots on there, but nothing major. And they're sort of in the gatefold as well. Looks like it's been slightly damp at some point. But the vinyl on this one is really nice. On reprise, whatever you want to call it. There's a couple of sort of fingerprints or thumbprints or whatever you that need cleaning off. But only some really light marks. So it should play fine. So this is, you know, got Morning Morgantown and Big Yellow Taxi and Woodstock. This is the well-known Joni songs, pretty much, to the general public are on here. Bar one or two, but yeah. Then the £5 records. We have Maze featuring Frankie Beverly. I think it's just called that. Yes, it is. So I picked up Maze. I've sort of become aware of through Prince singing about them, and I picked up a live album from a Slice of Vinyl however long ago. It was at the old premises, so it's over a year ago now, which I enjoyed a fair bit. So for a £5, I thought I would give this album a go. That's the track listing. And polyline sleeve on Capitol. And this, I seem to recall, a couple of light marks, but pretty much perfect, to be honest. For the Clapton collection, No Reason to Cry, again another £5 record. Don't recognise any of the song titles on this one. This is mid-70s, 76. Yes, I knew one of them was 76. On RSO. And again, this needs a clean. Or another clean. I saw him cleaning records. Yeah, a few fingerprints, but hopefully nothing major. One little scratch, but again, shouldn't affect play. So that's a nice one for the Clapton collection. So the next one is one of the two interesting, or at least interesting to me, one. It's the Vanity Six album. So if you're not familiar, Vanity Six was a Prince protege project, side project, whatever you want to call it. Denise Matthews, aka Vanity, sort of fronted the group with Brenda Rogers and Susan. I shouldn't have started that because I've forgotten her surname. Susan Mooney? Yes, Moonsey. I was close. And Susan Moonsey. Prince and Vanity had an affair for a while. I have this album on vinyl. I've had it for years. I managed to pick it up, I think it was back when I was at university. So I saw this and I thought, oh, Vanity Six. And I sort of pulled it up and I saw it had the hype sticker on. I thought, oh, tempted. Then I pulled it up further and saw that it was a gold stamp promo. So for £5, sod it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the poster that came with original copies, which I don't have in my copy either. I don't know if it came with the promo version. Comes in this sleeve, which my copy also comes in a plastic sleeve rather than in a bag, but doesn't have the Warner Brothers stamping on it, so that's nice to have. Initially, I thought it might be a white label promo, but it's not, because although it looks quite white, it has got stuff behind it, and it does match my other copy. But promo stamped, very clean as well, very good condition. Probably only played once, if that. And with a hype sticker for a £5, why not? That's what I say. And the final one from them, and another interesting one, was in the soundtrack section. It's an album I've been umming and erring over getting. I'll show you it properly in a minute, but it's a James Bond compilation of theme songs. The problem with these is that they reissue them every time there's a new film. This I have a soft spot for because I had it on cassette back in the day. This version of it, if you like. But it only goes up to For Your Eyes Only. However, for a £5, I grabbed it because it's the German version. And I just think it's nice and interesting. It's on the Weltstern, so World Stereo, possibly, label. And so it's got this nice gold border and this gold stamp, which is all embossed. And yeah, the only bit that's not in German is the track listing, but everything else is in German. James Bond Großer Hits. And then it's got the original inner from that record label with some of their other best ofs that they've done, including Queen and Elton John and Glenn Campbell and the Beatles. And it's on the Liberty label inside, but still all in German. Light markings, but nothing major. But yeah, nice interesting one for the Bond collection. And in really good condition as well, sleeve wise and inner sleeve. So yeah, that's what I picked up from Snu-Peas. Dumped that in my car and then tried to find the other one. Basically, I only knew of its existence through the Vinyl Hub on the Discogs app. So I bought that up and I was following the map pretty much. I had a rough idea of where it was. Eventually found it. Anyway, long story short, got there and it said, please wait here for entry. And there was a little chain across the doorway. There was a few people in there. And one of the customers turned to me and said, you want to come in? So I said, yeah. So he turned to the guy who owned it. So for somebody waiting to come in, he said, oh, come in. So moved the chain and went in. This sort of suffered from the opposite of Snu-Peas in that it had far more room than it had need for the amount of stock it had. It was on 2 levels for a start, but it was all just very spacious and plenty of ability to browse. Yeah, it was an interesting shop. Lots of ephemera as well as the actual music, programs and magazines and things like that. But upstairs, there's CDs and 7-inch singles, plus various other little bits. So I quickly flicked through the 80s section of the 7-inch singles to see if there was any prints, but there wasn't. And then there's an arrow saying vinyl and pointing to the stairs and down. So I went down the stairs and it was quite a big sort of basement room, but it just had little compartments of records all round, really well laid out. In fact, it was all in sections by genre. There was another guy there browsing. He was sort of in the interesting section, so I went round the others. So there was a little table that had female vocalists and male vocalists, and that was your sort of 50s to 70s, maybe a bit later. So from Sinatra to Cliff Richard to Gilbert O'Sullivan. I don't think he actually did have any Gilbert O'Sullivan, but that's where he would be, that sort of genre. The female vocalists were bit of jazz, bit of Ella Fitzgerald and stuff like that, and Helen Reddy and people like that. Then there was a blues section which I didn't look in, and country, which I definitely didn't look in. Then I went round and there were certain sections that were of no interest, so I didn't look at. I can't remember what the first section was, but I didn't look at it. No, it wasn't classical. That was somewhere else. No, I can't remember. But then, wish I'd taken pictures. What was there? No, I really can't remember what was on that wall, except that underneath there was a little box that had comedy records in, and I went through that and I did find one that I wanted. There's a couple more that I probably should have bought, actually. I'd been flicking through enough at that stage that I was a bit worried that I wouldn't find anything I wanted, and I don't like to leave a record shop empty-handed. So I picked one of the comedy ones out, but as I say, I wish actually there was a couple more that I probably should have got. But then we went on to the more interesting sections. We have the soundtrack section, and then roughly in this order there was 60s and 70s, I think, was combined, then 80s, then soul and disco, and then on the far wall it was all hip-hop and dance music and rap and stuff like that, and then there was classical right at the end. But long story short, I flicked through, I found a fair few bits, went up, really nice couple, looked like a mum and son who were running it, but yeah, really friendly, really chatty, very, almost too nice and not too polite, you know, but yeah, really nice. Rose Red Records, I didn't say that, did I? Rose Red Records it's called. But yeah, managed to pick up 6 titles, I think it was, 7, 6, whatever. Again, a mixture of some in sleeves, some aren't, but there didn't seem to be any pattern to it. But yes, so in the soul and funk section, really happy to find a Graham Central Station album, my first Graham Central Station vinyl. I have a few on CD, but this was £5, sadly not 50p as it was at some point. It is a cut-out sleeve, but that doesn't bother me at all. So this is their Now Do You Want to Dance album, which I don't have on CD, so this is completely new to me. Earthquake, I know. There's a couple of other titles that are vaguely familiar from the best of that I've got. But obviously the original inner sleeve, because it's got the cutout. Whether it had a lyric sheet or something originally, I don't know. On Warner Brothers, and I think this was pretty much, it's a bit sort of dusty and hairy, if you like, but a quick spin clean will sort that, but otherwise it's pretty much perfect. On that nice Avenue Warner's label. I think this is going to end up the fewest number of records I've shown in the longest amount of time. But, you know, new record shops to talk about. So the comedy one I picked up was The World of Pete and Dud for £4. So one of the many Decca World of releases. So yeah, they certainly had the Marty Feldman one, which I wish I picked up. And I think there was another one in this series. I thought, ooh, maybe I should have got that. I'm pretty certain I have everything on this on CD, but I don't have any Pete and Dud vinyl, so really happy to pick this up. Original polylined inner sleeve. On Decca, some fingerprints, but otherwise perfect. All the records from this place, although they sort of got dust and what have you, you can tell that they've had a really good clean. I think, you know, the dust and what have you is because they put them back in the original inners, but the records shine, they're so clean. Another one for the Clapton collection. This was £7, and this was the Rainbow Concert. So if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm sort of remembering stuff I've read many years ago, this was when Clapton was at the height of his addictions, and basically his friends persuaded him to do some concerts to try and get him back together and some degree of normality. Little discography on there, which is nice. On RSO. But, you know, because of that. It's got an interesting, yeah, that's again some light fingerprinting, but it's pretty much perfect. Yeah, because of how it was done, it's got Pete Townsend, Ronnie Wood, Jim Capaldi, interesting people on it. Just trying to work out why it's got that sleeve. I'm presuming that is the right sleeve, but it's sort of a cream sleeve. I'll have to check that and I'll put it on the screen. For my Alan Price collection, so I have pretty much everything he's ever released on CD, and I'm getting there on the vinyl. Glad to have picked this one up. This was £5. This is Price and Fame, Fame and Price together. So this was his album he did with Georgie Fame. They worked together quite a bit in the early 70s. This got Rosetta, which was quite a big hit. It's a good album. As I say, I have it on CD. Sleeves a bit tatty, but it was only a £5. Original inner, polylined, and again I think this was pretty much sort of, you know, you can tell it's been played, but should be good. For my Mark Knopfler collection, Mark Knopfler and Chet Atkins, or Chet Atkins and Mark Knopfler, Neck and Neck. So this was obviously the album he did with Chet Atkins. This was £12. This was in a sleeve for some reason, very thick sleeve. I remember this happening, but I don't think I've ever heard anything from it. But I can listen to Mark Knopfler play guitar all day long. This, again, some very light markings and a few stray hairs, but looks pretty darn good on CBS. And another one that got a sleeve for some reason, and you know, it's only a £5 album. Another one for the Alan Price collection. Again, got it on CD but needed the vinyl. This is Shouts Across the Street from '76, good album. Yeah, oh, there is a sheet in with this one as well. Again, pretty much perfect. And lyric sheet. And finally, for £10 for the Walker Brothers collection, Images. Track listing on that one. Again, original. It's got the fold back sleeve and everything. On Phillips. And pretty much perfect. Yeah, again, a couple of light marks. You can see it's been well played, but can't really fault it. So yeah, it came to £48, I think. So he said, oh, we'll do it for 45 so you can use the contactless. And then, for some reason, even though I just used my pin in Snu-Peas, it wanted me to put my card in and use the pin again. So, defeated the object anyway, but it saved me £3. Thank you very much, Rose Red Records. So yeah, 2 good shopping experiences after a disappointment at the start. But for the length of this video, probably a good job it was a disappointment at the start. Followed by a brilliant gig. Yeah, so that's my vinyl haul from Boscombe. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks. Bye.